Hi everybody, I'm Mark Titchner here in my studio in South London, getting ready to do this workshop with you, doing some Japanese ink marbling. My art is mainly based on using text and background images, and I make things like posters and billboards and banners, which a lot of the time end up in spaces outside of galleries, so you might find them or in the street or in a hospital, for instance. So we're going to try and do something a bit like that today. So we're going to be starting off with some this is my example, yours will be different, some pre-printed sheets of A4 paper. And then we're going to introduce this into the marbling tray, that's what we'll call it, and we'll get something like this. But when we combine it with the paper that you've printed off before, we'll get something like this, hopefully. So this process is, I'm definitely not an expert at this, so we'll kind of be learning it together. It's pretty straightforward, it's quite good fun, you can get some results quite quickly. So to start with, what you need, so I've got a metal tray here, which is what we're going to be working in. You may have something different. The only thing that's important with this is that it has some water in. So mine, it's probably got about 1 centimetre of water, just normal tap water in it, which is what we're going to work on. As well as that, we need a small amount of ink. So I'm using some Chinese calligraphy ink, but I think you can use colours as well. I'm just going to use black. And the other ingredient is just some water with a drop of detergent in. So just standard washing up liquid. Give that a little bit of a stir, but we don't want to make any bubbles. So that's it really. So we've got our ingredients. So we've got our water with detergent and we've got our ink. And that's our tray. So we're pretty much ready to go. The other thing we need is 2 brushes. One of these is for the ink and one of these is for the water. And we want to keep those separate. So the ink one stays in the ink pot and the water one stays in the water pot. So I think we're ready to start now. Now, as I say, I'm not really an expert in this, so we're going to learn this together. We're going to fill one of the brushes up with ink. Not so much that it's dripping, but so that there's a bit in there. And we're going to just touch the surface of the water. What we don't want to do is kind of go right down to the bottom. So it's just pecking on the surface. And when you touch it, you probably see a kind of like circle of ink. And then in the middle of that, we're going to put a dot of the detergent. And then we're going to do the same with the ink. And you can see you start to build up these circles of ink and water. What you can do is get into doing it a bit more quickly, alternating, and you can see it builds up pretty quickly. When I tried this at home with one of my children, we took a brush each, so you could even do it in a pair if you wanted to. So just keep going. There's not really kind of any wrong or right way of doing it. If you like, can you see if you hold the brush in there longer, it makes a bigger ink circle. You can see it disappearing there. So depending on how long you hold it in the water, you'll get different amount of ink released. And if you like, don't worry if you nudge the tray and it ripples, because anything you do which is going to make the water ripple or move is going to start making interesting patterns. The other thing you can do is start in another part of the tray and get 2 kind of patterns to interact with each other. So it's up to you really how long you keep going on this. You can get something pretty quickly, or you can get a lot, work on it and get a much more detailed kind of design. I'm just going to put some more ink on the brush here. Again, not crazy amount, but just enough to refill it, and just touching it on the surface. You'll find when you put the paper in a minute, all of this is going to kind of move and it will turn into something quite different. So what you see is on the water isn't necessarily what you're going to end up with. And what's really nice about this, I think, is that you're not really in control of what's happening. So the results are kind of unexpected every time. So I guess we should probably have a look and see what happens. We're going to put some paper in. So you can see the ink coming up off the bottom there. That's why I've gone in a bit too deep, and it makes those little clouds in the water. So maybe that's a good time to try and see what we've got. Okay. Now, one thing you can do, if you like, is to take the other end of your brush and just gently move that through the water. And you're almost drawing into the pattern. You can see that creates all of these kind of little swirls and stuff. So you might like to try that as well. You can get lots and lots of detail this way. You can use the end of your brush, or I guess your finger, a pencil. So I think that looks about ready to put our paper in. So I've got one of my printed sheets here. I'm just going to lay that down on the surface of the water. Don't really need to do anything other than that. Just let it soak the ink in. Now, when you take it out, this paper is quite thin. It's just normal kind of home printer paper. Just be a bit gentle picking it up. It's going to have the water in it, and it might tear. So, and then we're going to lay that down. Now the image will start to appear a bit more as it dries out. So it can be quite grey to start with. You'll notice you've still got your water in, there's still going to be some ink in the water. So if you like, we're going to have to change this. But what you could do, if you like, is try and get a second print off of it. Let's see. It's just another bit of paper. As I say, I'm just using black ink, but you might, you could even think about using some colours in there as well. So we've got a couple there. We're just going to leave those to dry. I've got one this one's still a bit wet, but you can still see a bit better how when it dries, the ink becomes a bit clearer. And I guess the thing that I'm interested in is how the words and the background start to kind of join together a bit and become more like a kind of single surface. So hopefully you'll have something like this, but with the text that you've written on it. Yeah, so that's it. I hope you enjoyed making your own marbled text-based artworks. Thanks.